How does a social app go from zero to $4 billion in valuation and then crash almost to nothing in less than 2 years? I spent hours diving into Clubhouse wide ride, and what I discovered completely changed how I personally think about timing, hype, and sustainable growth. If you're building a side hustle while juggling a full-time job, this is going to be huge for you. I'm a bed, and every day I break down one successful company to find strategies that we can actually use and publish them here on this channel. Today, we're looking at Clubhouse because their story shows the dangerous difference between the viral growth and real growth. Here's what blew my mind. Like, they had only 5,000 users when they got $100 million valuation. Can you imagine that? But by the end, even their investors stopped using the app. So what happened? Let me walk you through their journey because every stage has lessons we can apply to our own builds. Like the founders, Paul Davidson and Rohan Seth, had already launched multiple field apps like highlights, rolls, shorts. Does that sound familiar? Like if you've been building for a while, you know that feeling of launching something that just doesn't stick. In 2019, they tried again with something called Talk Show, basically a live talk show app, and nothing revolutionary about it. Then the pandemic hit in 2020 March, and suddenly everyone is on lockdown. No one can gather in person. This random audio feature they built, it takes on a completely different life for itself. And now here's the key part that caught my attention. They actually didn't plan the exclusivity. They just needed to test in a controlled way, but that scarcity became their marketing engine. Think about this. 1,000 users got them $100 million valuation. 1,000. The numbers that followed were insane. December 2020, 600,000 users. Follow this. 600,000 users in December 2020. 2 to 3 months later, February 2021, they had 6 million users. In March 2021, a month after that, they had 10 million users. And all this while, the app was still iOS only and invite only, so no Android version. And invites became some sort of status symbols. Tech celebrities jumped on. Paul Davidson later said there was often a why now moment where multiple tech trends converge. For Clubhouse, it was airports, podcasts, and global lockdown. The perfect storm for them. As someone constantly trying to time my own product launches, this made me wonder, like, would this have worked without the pandemic? Honestly, I think it probably may not. And that's the first big lesson here. The timing isn't just about having a good idea, it's having the right idea when the world is ready for it. So for us building side hustles, this means actually tracking what's changing in our audience life. Like not just asking what they want, but asking what's different about their day now versus 6 months ago. I have started doing this with my own audience and the insights are eye-opening. But here's where Clubhouse Stories gets really interesting and honestly a bit concerning that despite that $4 billion valuation, they had zero revenue for their first year. Their business model was literally raise capital and figure it out later. And when they finally launched monetization in April 2021, they did something I'd never seen before. Like they introduced payments where users could tip their favorite hosts. At Clubhouse took zero cut. 100% of the payments went straight to the creator. They were essentially paying people to produce content through what we will call content or creator grants. Like as someone who constantly struggles with pricing my own products, part of me admires this approach. Like it's generous, it builds trust, right? But here's what I learned digging into this. It's a beautiful vision that burns cash. They were running a creator subsidy program funded entirely by venture capital. That was great until the music stops. This got me thinking, when is it okay for us to delay monetization and when is it reckless to do so? So what I'm testing based on this lesson is small revenue streams early. not enough to hurt growth, but enough to also validate that people actually want to pay for what I'm building. Even if it is $5 a month from, say, 10 users, this tells me more about real product market fit than 1,000 free signups. Clubhouse taught me that generosity is admirable, yes, but sustainability is essential. Now, here's the part that keeps me up at night thinking about my own scaling challenges. Like Clubhouse explosive virality exposed structural weaknesses almost overnight. They had only a handful of employees when usage exploded, no moderation tools. So no way to police misbehavior in live audio. Journalists were getting harassed in rooms. There were anti-Semitic chants on major holidays. The very thing that was making them successful was eventually or simultaneously killing them. At the same time, everyone started copying their features. Like Twitter launched what they call spaces, Facebook launched live audio rooms, Spotify launched green room, Discord launched stage channels. Like the competition was fierce and fast. The crash was brutal for them. March 2020, as we mentioned already, they had 10 million active users. But by September 2020, they had only 3.5 million active users. That's a 65% drop in 6 months. Paul Davidson later admitted that they got ahead of themselves and couldn't handle the incoming interest. So in one interview, he said, "We tried really hard to grow slow and we succeeded for 9 months." Hearing a founder say they tried to grow slowly was honestly a wake-up call for me, because aren't we all chasing that viral moment? But Clubhouse story taught me something crucial, that not all growth is good growth. If you can't handle the growth, it becomes a problem. Your user experience suffers, people leave, and your competitors who can actually handle the scale will end up eating your lunch. This is hitting close to home for me right now, because I mean we're all building these things and we want to make sure that we do things that our competitors cannot just copy. What I learned from Clubhouse is that retention actually became their North Star metric, not growth, not signups. Retention. Here's what I am testing now. Tracking day 1 and say day 30 retention on everything that I built. So not just the traffic numbers, not just email signups. Who is actually sticking around and engaging? Because here's the reality. In a world where features can be copied instantly, engagement and retention now becomes your only real competitive advantage. So by the time Clubhouse opened to Android in May 2021, and when they removed the invite only system in July 2020, it was too late for them. The competitors had already caught up and the novelty had worn off. What's the lesson here? I would say prepare for scale before you need it. Like have your moderation systems ready, have your customer support processes, have your retention strategies planned out. Growth without infrastructure isn't good. It's taking a ticking time bomb. It will just go out one time on you. But here's what gives me hope in this whole story that we're analyzing today. That with usage crashing and competitors everywhere, Clubhouse actually ended up doing something that most companies are easily too proud to do, I would say. They pivoted. Not once, but twice. So in April 2023, they laid off half of their staff. The founders admitted that as the world reopened up, it was harder for people to find their friends on the app and fit long conversations into their daily life. And this essentially translates to the pandemic tailwind was completely gone. And their first pivot was actually introducing houses, private groups where friends could hold recurring chats. So instead of broadcasting to strangers, it became about intimate community building. The bigger change came in September 2023. They completely reinvented the entire app. Instead of live rooms, the new Clubhouse is an asynchronous audio messaging app. You record voice notes, friends respond with clips. Think Snapchat, but for your voice, right? They even built an AI feature that recreates your voice from text so you can respond when you can't actually talk out loud. Here's what struck me about all this. By the time they pivoted, those were down by 90%. 90%. Even their early investors weren't using the app anymore. Most founders would have thrown in the towel, but they kept experimenting. As someone who's had to pivot projects that weren't working, I find this incredibly inspiring. It takes raw courage to admit that your original vision isn't working and try something completely different. And my biggest takeaway is don't wait until you're desperate to start experimenting. I'm starting to treat every product that I build as a series of experiments, not a final destination. So if something isn't working, I pivot faster now. The question isn't, will this work forever? It's more of, what can I learn from this that informs my next experiment? And Clubhouse's final pivot actually revealed something important. They realized people didn't really want to listen to strangers talk for hours. They wanted to connect with people they already knew, but in a new way or more intimate way. That insight that could actually work long term. So here's my biggest takeaway from this whole deep dive. Like, hype and sustainable growth are two completely different things, and Clubhouse showed how a simple, timely idea can capture the world's attention, but it also showed how quickly that attention can evaporate when you don't have the infrastructure and strategy to sustain it. So if you're building a side hustle while working a full-time job, here are 3 things you can test this week. And I'm taking this as my personal assignment and to also try tracking it. So I hope you do the same if you're on this journey with me. Track retention, not just growth. So set up simple ways to measure who is actually sticking around with your content or product. So on the product that I'm building, I've set up Post Hog, where I'm able to track the activity on the site. And the second one I would say is plan small revenue streams early. You don't have to wait until you need to monetize. You need to be able to test people's willingness to pay when the stakes are still low. The third I would say is build your support systems. So build your support systems before you actually need them. That whether these are email templates or FAQs or community guidelines, you need to build them before you actually need them. And I'm curious, have you ever experienced any form of rapid growth that became hard to handle? Or maybe you've had to pivot a project that wasn't working? Drop a comment and let me know what experiment you are running. And know that tomorrow as well, I'm going to dive into another company and we're going to analyze their strategies and pick out lessons that we can all apply to our goal. And if you want to learn alongside me as I analyze one company every day, go ahead and hit subscribe. And if this changed how you think about growth versus sustainability, give the video a thumbs up and share with your friends. The goal isn't to avoid making a Clubhouse mistake, is to learn from them and build something that actually lasts. I'll see you in the next video. Don't forget to leave your comments, subscribe to the channel, and give the video a thumbs up. Thank you so much, and catch you in the next video. Until then, bye bye for now.